Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Arts and Environmental Justice Symposium hosted by the Mural Arts Institute at Mural Arts Philadelphia. We are so grateful that you're here with us today. My name is Sabida Mosanyan Rahman. I'm a manager at the Institute. I'm a brown woman with short brown hair, brown eyes, wearing a black dress with flowers on it, and I am sitting in front of a gray wall with artwork on it. We acknowledge that the land on which we live and labor were stolen from the Lenni Lenape peoples and their descendants who survived and remained in the homeland, in addition to those in the diaspora who were forcefully removed as far as Oklahoma, Wisconsin, and Canada, and are still marginalized even in the city of brotherly love. Registration to the symposium was free, but please find links to the tribal governments and indigenous organizations on Lenape land, Philadelphia, in the chat, and consider donating and learning more in the spirit of reciprocity and reparations. Thank you. At the Mural Arts Institute, I actually am super privileged to manage the Arts and Environmental Justice Capacity Building Initiative, which has brought me in community with all the filmmakers and incredible individuals that you'll meet here today. The mini documentaries and this whole symposium are part of that body of work. And this initiative brings together community partners from around the country, artists, and mural arts staff to develop sustainable programs in each region to create public art and build upon cultural practice that addresses issues that have deep societal implications. The theme of this iteration of the initiative is environmental justice, climate change, and the inherent resilience that's demonstrated by all these individuals always, and all these communities always. I'd actually like to introduce Chad Eric Smith, filmmaker and director of communications at the Mural Arts Philadelphia, to kick off the screenings and conversations today. Hey, Chad, thank you. Hey, welcome. Chad Eric Smith is an award-winning actor, screenwriter, filmmaker, and musician. He also serves as the director of communications and brand management for Mural Arts Philadelphia. In 2017, he founded the film production company Mr. Duke Productions, which produces genre-bending, thought-provoking projects and comedies across film and digital platforms, as well as compelling promotional videos for nonprofits, businesses, and individuals interested in raising their profile and growing their clientele. That same year, Smith wrote, produced, and directed the short psychological sci-fi drama Rumination, about a heartbroken man who travels into the past for a second chance at a failed relationship. The film screened at over 30 film festivals nationwide and won over 20 awards before being released on Amazon Prime and the Black-owned streaming platform Quali TV. In 2019, Washington, D.C.'s Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment named Smith the October Filmmaker of the Month. Other film highlights include the 8-episode drama Counselor and the short sci-fi drama Fatherless, both on Amazon Prime. The vampire comedy Dark Therapy, which has a distribution deal with Sean Diddy Combs, Revolt TV, and the upcoming comedy series The Introvert Life, which is an official selection of the 2021 Charlotte Black Film Festival. Learn more about his work at MrDukeProductions.com. Thank you so much for kicking off this event for us today, Chad. We're really grateful that you'll be in conversation with the filmmakers and speakers that have created these incredible works. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabide. It's truly a pleasure. Again, my name is Chad Eric Smith, and I am a Black man with a bald head, a beard, and brown eyes. I'm wearing a short sleeve black shirt with tiny white and brown polka dots and sitting in front of a window with the blinds closed. As a filmmaker, I am particularly excited about what we have in store for you all. Partner organizations working with the Arts and Environment Capacity Building Initiative were invited to reflect on the environmental justice issues impacting their communities and to explore what they would look and feel like if significant improvements were made in addressing these issues. I had the honor and pleasure of being the consultant to all of the amazing films that we will see today, from Austin, Texas, Kern County, California, Ogopoge, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Detroit, Michigan, Memphis, Tennessee, Akron, Ohio, and in more recent partnership with organizations from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania as well. So this afternoon, we will watch 8 mini documentaries, and hear from cohort participants and filmmakers. So get your popcorn ready, and also know that there will be an opportunity for a Q&A after we hear from the teams. So our first film is called The Master Plan, and it's from Austin, Texas. And it draws a through line between racist redlining during the antebellum era to the segregation, gentrification, and environmental crisis that residents of East Austin have been resisting ever since, and offers hope for the future. This is a production by Be the Change Studios in association with Raisin in the Sun, and is directed by Chris Sand. Check it out.
Racism has become much more subtle and sophisticated and very well established to the point that most people aren't even aware that it exists. White people are clueless to their complicity in the status quo of systemic racism.
And this has been happening to black folks all over, but it's actually been happening to poor people all over. I want to call it a black person problem. It's really a poor person problem, because it's actually all about money.
We'll attempt to illustrate the master plan for ATX from 1928. The plan began with racism and bills to segregate black Austinites from white, and ultimately would create East Ave, AKA IH-35, to separate West Austin from the east of 35. And they would make a district for Negroes on land away from those that hate, a space to place the liberated slaves and then erase black folk from freedmen towns, places that freed black folk created, and colonizers organized and forced the subjugated out of Western ATX to act as their replacements. Yeah, this was gentrification, Austin's first planned displacement.
People here in East Austin who were brown berets, who were in their 70s and 80s, who experienced, police brutality, beatings.
I got thrown out of apartments when they found out that I was black. Because I guess they thought I was cleaning the house when I came in and out.
Today, Austin is coming to grips with its racist legacy and turning away from it. And it's a direct result of the resistance of those black and brown people in East Austin over the last 80 years.
Dead but not forgotten, the river took many forms. We struggled in cotton fields, abnorm, had to conform to ways of living, considered unliving condition. When waters transformed, the whips beating our asses to submission. Through pain, we kept swimming, maintained through opposition. Overcame Southern tradition and went on to better living, so it seemed. Some slept, some stayed awake and followed dreams, swimming further up the stream, trying to conquer other things.
Those of us who are benefiting from all the blood, sweat, and tears and death that our predecessors, we stand on the shoulders of a lot of people.
Time to get up, get out to work, or try to find employment. A 9-to-5, another grind, corporate work that's exploiting. The fundamental building blocks for work destroy enjoyment, but it's the instrument for betterment against being broke. No truer words have been spoken, so I break my neck. Victory or defeat. Most reasons are obsolete, but surviving ain't close to living. Hell, my peeps got to eat, even if my stomach's empty and my bodies went without sleep for the last couple of weeks. Hell, I got technique. Long as my family has food being chewed behind cheeks. Maintaining healthy physiques, full bellies when they sleep. That's a small price to pay, to lay next to my angels and awaken the next day just to fight from different angles. But I wish I could do this from the soil that I sprung.
East Austin is a racist product. So the way to keep going is to call it out when you see it, don't tolerate it, and insist that our policies reflect real justice and equity.
I just love how compelling storytellers can be in such a short time. Amazing work out of Austin. Shout out to The Shade for that wonderful spoken word. Next, we have How Green is My Valley from Kern County, California. And this film documents the adverse impact of pesticide pollution in the nation's bread bowl, oil wells, particulate pollution, and persistent wildfires endangering the health of Central Valley communities. And this is by filmmaker Fabian Uresti with community partners from Public Art and Social Practice Artists, Poverty and the Environment, Central Valley Air Quality Coalition, and Central California Environmental Justice Network. Check it out.
The San Joaquin Valley lies in the geographic heart of California. I was born and raised here. In total, 8 counties in whole or in part altogether make up El Valle de San Joaquin. Growing up in McFarland in the 90s, there has seemingly always been a friendly rivalry between the city of Fresno to the north and our own county seat of Bakersfield. Despite the portrait presented to those living outside its borders, California is not so forward-thinking on issues regarding the environment.
Particularly communities that live fence line or across the street from industrial toxic polluters, right? The fact that there's schools and homes that are literally across the street from fields that get fumigated constantly, that kind of structural racism that allows land use practices to exist is something that I'd really love to document.
Like Fresno, Bakersfield and its surrounding landscape is well known for its agriculture. Unlike Fresno, Bakersfield and other rural towns in Kern County have a history of oil production that goes back more than 100 years. According to the American Lung Association's 2020 State of the Air report, Bakersfield and Fresno share in another distinction. Using year-round particle pollution as a metric, Bakersfield has the worst air pollution in the United States, followed by Fresno. When talking about short-term particle pollution, Bakersfield then follows Fresno. Sis, boom.
It wasn't until I was in school where I learned about all of these things happening, and it just it made me upset that I had lived there for 18 years and never knew that I was being impacted by particle pollution, by agricultural burns, by high ozone peaks in the summer.
So I am an asthmatic. I had heard that we had a really bad air pollution problem. But like a lot of people, I kind of was of the mentality, well, I can't stop breathing. So basically, like, it is what it is. And I kind of have to accept these circumstances to the degree that when I would go to the doctor and complain about breathing problems, they would say to me, oh, well, Fresno's asthma city.
Kern County already accounts for 80% of all oil and gas production in the state. Increased oil and gas drilling in Kern County would contribute to devastating public health impacts, as the oil and gas extraction process releases a toxic soup of chemicals and particle pollution into the air and water. Studies have shown a direct link between oil and gas production and a range of adverse health impacts, from chronic asthma and cancers to high-risk pregnancy. Oil and gas extraction contribute greatly to ongoing air and water pollution in the Central Valley. Moreover, pesticides and herbicides used in aerial spraying on agricultural land helps make matters worse.
That's definitely where my passion lies. It's near and dear to my heart, and I can only imagine what people are going through, those that don't have access to centralized air systems that can afford to filter out their air during wildfires, during ag burns, during ozone seasons.
Clean air advocates, like the Central Valley Air Quality Coalition, work diligently for a cleaner and safer San Joaquin Valley. CVAC leads a partnership of more than 70 organizations, including the Central California Environmental Justice Network.
It would start off with Rudy Salas being replaced by Brian Osorio. It would be the San Joaquin Valley Air District Governing Board being all people of color, minority women, not white business owners, not white rancheros, right, that have a stake in what they're regulating, right?
People of color in low-income communities largely make up 92% of Californians who live within a mile of oil and gas wells. Lamont and Arvin, southeast of Bakersfield, are two such communities. Both are completely surrounded by agriculture, and both have a history of oil and gas production. CCEJN recognized that small, isolated, and poor rural communities had little political recognition, yet multiple environmental problems. These communities, today comprised largely of POC, are found throughout the entirety of the San Joaquin Valley.
Fascinating, specific, and so well done. Great work from the Kern County crew. Next, we have Interwoven. Native American filmmaker Autumn Rose Billy reaches out to fellow colleagues and community members in Santa Fe, New Mexico, unceded Tewa lands. She shares their deeply parallel perspectives on environmental violence and the connection to land in the area they call home. Check it out.
Hi, my name is Israel. I'm currently in Ogapoque, Santa Fe, Nuevo Mexico. I work with the Alas de Agua Art Collective. I'm the artist director. We co-founded this organization which is trying to do murals in town for the community. Alas de Agua in and of itself means wings of water. We want to just be that life force for people. And we also want to be wings for people. We want them to dream big because in our communities, we have constantly been colonized and shortchanged and to think small.
My name is Dr. Christina M. Castro. I am Jemez Pueblo, Taos Pueblo, Chicana, and Achaman. If you look at the history of colonialism and all the ways that the tools that they use to break down a people, it's always the breaking down of the family structure, whether it's boarding school, relocation program in the 50s through the 70s, removal off the land into a reservation. All of that, at the root of it, it's a breakdown of family and community.
Now, when I look at New Mexico specifically, you see one of the least white states in the country. You also see a state where most extractive industry is centered. White supremacism is the driving force behind ecological devastation, right? And so it's not an issue of racial violence coinciding with environmental violence. It's the fact that environmental violence is racial violence, and racial violence often manifests as environmental violence.
Three Sisters was began to create a safe space for Indigenous women, femmes, and their families in this town that is very extractive of Indigenous people, culture-wise, labor-wise, and in a bunch of different ways. We highlight gentrification, we highlight mutual aid, and of course our artwork.
I think New Mexico and the Southwest in general are both an example and then also a real warning about the racialized nature of environmental pollution. In ecological destruction, they're saying the animals, the plants, the lives in this place, the lives of this species are not as important as human lives, and so we can develop them out of existence. And during gentrification, they're saying the lives of these brown or black people, of these poor people, aren't the same as us, our wealthy white lives, and so we have the right to develop them out of existence. It's the same ideological process, and it's based in the same things. Fracking is a system that is only possible because its costs, its earthquakes, its stillbirths, its pollution are being offloaded into primarily indigenous communities. And so the white American public doesn't perceive that as the, mass murder that it is.
When we were able to get this space about a year ago, we always envisioned that the space would lead to land, but COVID made everything go fast forward because we couldn't actually be in our physical space. We went back to our roots of being outdoors and doing murals, and also because our work with other organizations like YouthWorks, we were able to start this conversation around, well, we need to access land for everybody. And the beauty of that process, we're able to get involved with the county, and we're able to get involved with Reunity Resources.
So Tuesday was actually my first day I've ever been on the forum. Pretty cool, since it was our first day. We started from the bottom, the different personalities in plants. They told us they're people, and they kind of are, because they're picky, believe it or not. They're really picky about where they want to be planted and how deep they want to be planted, how much water is needed and how much sunlight, and it's all really cool, and I'd love to learn about all that.
The prayer that I'm always praying for is the activation of our memory. our ancestral memory and our current memory, to be really present with what we have, with who we are, and all our lineages, and our relationship to the Mother Earth and our relationship to water.
Again, fantastic work out of Santa Fe. Colonized, shortchanged, and told to think small. That hit, you know? What a great way to push back to that in such a direct and educational way. Next, we have a film entitled Arts in the Park. Now, Arts in the Park, filmmakers take us to the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, which exists uniquely between Cleveland and Akron, Ohio. From its inception, the CVNP has been a park for all people, and today we see how the park uses art to make it a home to local residents and visitors alike. This is produced by Sutton Film Productions and Arts Now, and directed by Megan Scott and Jim Gilbane. Let's watch it.
Cuyahoga Valley National Park really came about because in the 60s and 70s, kind of the civil rights era, the federal government had a program called Parks to the People, and it was really recognizing that national parks weren't accessible. And there was a movement to create national parks in metropolitan areas.
We're so lucky to have a park that's situated between two urban, centers, Cleveland and Akron, that sort of places parks and access in our neighborhoods. But if there were more transportation or programming, I believe that people who don't normally think of these spaces as their own would find a great transformation in coming to the park more regularly.
We're trying to figure out, how do we make the national park and the conservancy feel like, oh no, this is a part of where I live. I have ownership over this thing, so I can come and go as I want to. And there's no better way to do that than the arts. The arts intuitively open the door for people to have conversation, open the door for people to have the ability to feel at home like nothing else does.
The Conservancy in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park brings artists in our community into the park, and I think ultimately art programs have the ability of speaking to different populations and offering the permission to participate.
For years, the Conservancy has created this really cool concert series, and they bring in a lot of musicians. I think that that's both educational and entertaining and reaches diverse audiences with the creative programming.
We're thrilled to work with the Conservancy to install what we call a stanza wall. People can come up to the wall and move these colorful blocks that come out of big bins labeled nouns and adjectives and verbs, and make an expression, a found poem, a poetic thought. We had visitors tell them that it was one of their favorite stations inside the visitor center.
So all these things can change the experience of being at the park for everyone by using the arts to do it.
I think parks are the perfect intersection between arts and science. When you bring it together, you create a more well-rounded experience for visitors.
The importance of any kind of attempt to bring students or people of any age into the national park and to have them have an experience that can take root inside of them, that they can carry with them, is absolutely crucial.
When those entities work together, parks, artists, scientists, I believe that we will be able to solve some of the bigger challenges of our day, environmentally.
was great. Very cinematic, such great work. And as a musician, I particularly love the music at the park. I'll have to visit sometime. Next, we have Paradise Foods. Now, Paradise Foods takes us to Detroit, Michigan, and documents the role of community health advocate and chef Mama Neza as she envisions a more equitable and healthy future for Detroit. This is from filmmaker Desmond Love. Check it out.
So I'm Chef Neza, more commonly known in the community as Mama Neza, and I've kind of made peace with that because at first it made me feel kind of like somebody's grandma, which I am. But I realized that, you know, people giving me that title of Mama meant that they appreciated the fact that I fed them, just like your mom would feed you. And I literally do. When I make food, I think about my own family and how I feed them. And the community is just an extension of that. So one of the biggest things impacting our communities is access to healthy food. You know, I don't know if I like the term food desert. Food insecurity might be better because there's plenty of things that's considered food, but not really. So it's not technically a desert, but food insecurity to me means more or less you don't have access to food that's actually life-giving, that's healthy. And then that sets us up for a plethora of other things like diseases that could be controlled, prevented, or eliminated by eating healthy. But if you're a kid going to school in the morning getting hot Cheetos from the gas station on the way to school, obviously you can't go to school and learn. If you're running into the gas station on the way to work getting, Red Bull out to keep you going, obviously you're not at your best. So I think food insecurity is like one of the biggest things impacting our community. I'm a chef because I know how to cook, and I grew up in a family that cooked, but I'm a community health educator, so that's my passion point. And really the food for me is just a way to get people to listen to the conversation, because people always, are more open when you feed them. But obviously we can't be our best selves. Our communities are, when you walk through some of these or drive through some of these areas, they look like a war zone, right? If we're in our right mind because we're eating healthy and our brains are functioning, our communities wouldn't look like that, because we would come up with all kinds of ways to mitigate whatever was, fix up housing. But when we're daily trying to just figure out how to eat and how to survive, we don't have time to do those other things that builds community. So when I go to a market like Market on the Ave in my neighborhood that brings people in the community together to socialize and commune around food, art, music, dance, all of that, I see that as a way to have that conversation about wellness, not just around food, but really around community. In 5 years, in a community that has access to healthy food, clean water, safe housing, our communities will be all that we are. We have so much talent that would manifest outwardly in what we see around us. Our children will have a better future, because as I said before, they can't learn if they're eating hot Cheetos on the way to school. And so when people come to like maybe a pop-up, or I do a catering, or I do a class, even though my job and my business is to provide food for clients, but the bigger picture really is to educate people, to create like a community of wellness, and to create these spaces where we can break bad bread communally, because I feel that culturally, people are more likely to make changes around health and wellness if it feels like it's an organic part of their everyday lived lives.
Now I'm hungry. Thanks a lot, Desmond. No, I'm just kidding. Amazing work out of Detroit. Next, we have toxic behavior. Toxic behavior documents the debate about an oil pipeline in Memphis and how it's getting louder by the day. Grassroots organizers and activists from the South Memphis community are fighting against environmental racism as they await a vote from Memphis politicians. Filmmaker Asia Raisin and was in partnership with Urban Arts Memphis. Let's check it out.
Don't take my land. That's what about a dozen property owners in South Memphis are saying to a Byhalia pipeline company. The company wants to build a pipeline from the Valero plant in downtown Memphis through parts of the predominantly black neighborhoods of Boxtown, Westwood, and Whitehaven, and then into Mississippi. Byhalia Pipeline even filing eminent domain lawsuits against property owners who won't sell portions of their land.
They were saying that they want to terminate me, my profit, if I didn't agree with them. Oh no, that ain't finna happen. Even if I don't stay on it, I want my body bed out here on it. It ain't for sale.
Polluted water is violence, and this is a type of violence. It's violence for you to people not to be able to drink water off their tap and to be able to be healthy. So that's violence.
America, you should know, is named Boxtown, is a black community that was named after formerly enslaved people. Used scraps of wood and metal from train boxcars to build their homes. This community is too historic and comes through too much sacrifice to be robbed in the 21st century.
Not that this is my first time, but I have really been entrenched in the energy justice, energy equity movement for about 4 years now. And it has allowed me to work with different people from different areas of the community as well as around the country. And I love that part of it, and it is so meaningful. What has more value than the earth, the planet on which we live? Nothing is more important than this.
On March 1st, 2014, 2 weeks before my father, Miller T. Nicholson, passed away and went to heaven, the one thing that he stressed the most to me was, you girls take care of the garden, you girls take care of the land. Y'all can take the world. And 2 weeks after that, he went on to be with the Lord. We are here to preserve our water. We are here to preserve our land. We are here to save our communities. And we are here to honor our forefathers. Yes, statistics say that Memphis is ranked number 5 amongst the most unhealthiest and unfit cities in the United States of America. But the Byhalia pipeline will not bring health or wealth to our community, to our cities.
People here are outraged and angry and hurt after hearing a representative connected to this project describe their decision. They said the reason that they brought the pipeline through South Memphis because it would be a point of least resistance. Well, you woke us up now.
All the blood and the sweat and the tears, and you're gonna tell me that you just wanna take it? That sounds like bullying to me. You're gonna bully me? I've never liked a bully. I always thought of a bully like David. God gave David 5 smooth stones. And when he got through with Goliath, what did he do? Cut his head off. So the bigger you are, the harder you fall.
Not anchoring Jesus, it will surely away.
Shout out to Memphis, so powerful. Polluted water is violence. So inspiring to see you all fight back. Next, A Green Future for Gray's Ferry. Now, this film is based here in Philly. It follows former employees of the PES refinery that closed permanently after a massive fire in 2019, along with activists from Philly Thrive, as they explore what a just future would look like for the city. This film is a follow-up to director Bilal Motley's Midnight Oil, which premiered at the Black Star Film Festival in 2020. Let's watch it.
Philly Thrive started in 2015 during a time when elected officials and corporate officials were putting forward a vision of Philadelphia as a so-called energy hub, which would have basically meant a massive expansion of the fossil fuel industry. And so Thrive was started to bring together community members in Grays Ferry and other nearby neighborhoods who were already massively impacted, harmed by the existing fossil fuel infrastructure in Philly, particularly the South Philly Philadelphia Energy Solutions oil refinery, advocate for their health and well-being, fight the expansion of the fossil fuel industry, and to hold accountable those companies that were already polluting the air and water here in Philly.
I've been living around here for 60-something years, you know, with my being raised around here, but I've been living in this one house here for 40 years. You know, I'm with Philly Thrive now, and you know, we're doing great things for the community.
Well, I was a refinery worker. I did shutdowns over at the refinery. You know, we were inside them tanks. You know, that's real dangerous. We would sit on the scaffolding, take our chipping gun and chip the dry oil off of the tanks and then go down and bag it up and send it out. So, you know, only kind of mask we had is this kind of mask, surgical mask, when we should have had a full face mask on. That's why, you know, sometimes I walk up the steps, I can't even get to the top without stopping. You know, I know that comes from, you know, that refinery and my breathing.
So there was a massive explosion and fire at the refinery on June 21st, 2019. There had been many other fires in the past. This one was catastrophic, but that explosion figuratively and literally woke up a lot more people. You know, there was a leak of hydrofluoric acid, which is extremely toxic, that could have killed thousands of people. And Thrive members immediately swung into action to call for a complete investigation, for the refinery to remain closed, organized street protests, lobbied city council members, you know, and tried to bring as much attention to those goals of preserving health and safety and economic and racial justice, right up until the time that the official announcement was made that a company had bought the refinery site and intended to redevelop it into a different kind of business and not to reopen it as a refinery.
We won. We were working and putting everything on the line, including, you know, using civil disobedience to make sure the refinery was closed. So I just have, you know, an enormous amount of hours of my energy and, you know, and my heart and my labor committed to seeing this land be transformed in the best, healthiest interest of the people and the planet. With this redevelopment, I really think the resources could be put to rational use. I mean, I think a lot of things could look different, not everything. The thing we want to keep the same are the people who have been in these neighborhoods for generations.
We wanted somebody to get it that wasn't going to make it a refinery no more. And that happened. Hilto got the bid. So we feel like Hilto, you know, should help us out on our CBA and what we want in our community. As far as a community center, if they develop us, we would like them to build this one.
How resourced the parks are and the libraries and the schools. So transformation just could be amazing. That's what it could look like if we figure out how to make sure that the redevelopment of this huge piece of land in the middle of South and Southwest Philly can just radiate reinvestment and dignity and health into surrounding neighborhoods.
Wow, fascinating to learn what happened and continues to happen in my own backyard here in Philly. Thank you, Bilal, for such great work. Finally, we have plastic baggage, exposing the environmental justice impacts of plastic in Philadelphia. As part of the Climate Justice Initiative, this film is a result of a collaboration between the Trash Academy leaders and Trash Academy leaders Brianna Gumpton, Aminata Calhoun, and Trash Academy project coordinator Ron White. And I was actually the videographer for this project, so this one is close to home. It explores the multifaceted and disparate harms and environmental justice issues posed by single-use plastics, particularly the extraction, production, consumption, and disposal of plastic bags in Philadelphia. Plastic baggage, exposing the environmental justice impacts of plastic in Philly, complicates the issue of trash and builds awareness and people power around these issues through 4 video chapters: Plastic and Fossil Fuels, Plastic and Nature, Plastics in Our Neighborhoods, and Plastic Alternatives and Collective Action. Let's check it out.
Most of us know that global warming is caused by the burning of fossil fuels. But did you know that plastic trash pollution is another harmful side effect of the fossil fuel industry? Plastics are made from fossil fuels, and when they are discarded, they often end up polluting our neighborhoods, waterways, and even our bodies. When fossil fuels are burned for energy, this causes a buildup of air pollution and heat-trapping gases. Think of it as a kind of invisible trash polluting our atmosphere. Considering the seriousness of global warming, the incineration of trash, either for convenience or for energy, makes absolutely no sense. The burning of plastics is particularly harmful for human health. The incineration of trash is an environmental justice issue. Polluting industries are usually placed in mostly Black and brown communities, contributing to health problems and lower property values.
The largest 2 polluters in the Philadelphia area is the International Airport and the Covanta incinerator located in Chester. They burn 3,500 tons of trash every day. Every day.
Our environment is facing a lot of threats, from global warming to deforestation, but plastic pollution in natural areas has become such a huge issue as well. Not only are humans impacted because of this pollution in our environment, but does anyone ever stop to think about how the animals are affected? Hungry animals usually smell food in plastic containers and bags, or mistake plastic for food. Unfortunately, their curiosity and desire for food often causes them to get trapped in our plastic waste. Unless someone is around to help them, they often die. Plastic pollution also affects our drinking water. Unfortunately, in Pennsylvania, the Schuylkill ranked as the 3rd most polluted waterway. About 44 tons of waste is pulled from the Schuylkill a year. Plastic bags are 17% of the floatables. Plastic pollution is not only annoying and bothersome, but it can be deadly for animals and their habitats. Plastic pollution is a poison and is slowly killing our environment. We only have one planet. Respect Mother Earth.
The effects of plastic pollution has on our health and well-being in the hood can undoubtedly bring about a disorder of environmental distraught and distress, EDD. EDD has unfortunately become a state of my being, that which I have experienced, that which I have seen, and that which I have taken much of my time to clean. Many of the hood streets saturated with plastic wrappers. It wraps. Plastic pollution will never be the solution. The condition of plastic pollution are like a consumption of a hard pill. This undeniably is environmental injustice. Everyday plastic pollutants in my neighborhood seriously impacts my health, physically, mentally, and my well-being. That's why I'm suffering from the disorder of EDD. I wear a face mask, not for COVID-19, but for protection against the environmental toxins that's in my neighborhood and community.
Plastic pollution is a huge problem, but we already have the tools and technologies we need to overcome this crisis. First, we can limit our consumption of plastic consumer goods. For example, switching from plastic shopping bags to reusable cloth bags. Alternatives like hemp plastics are becoming more popular as well. We can support legislation to limit plastic packaging and ban the production and distribution of single-use plastics. As we take personal and political action to limit the use of plastics, we will also be giving our ecosystems a chance to repair and heal. We must stand with frontline communities and support them in their fight against trash incineration. And if enough of us take action to reduce single-use plastics, we can end the plastic crisis once and for all.
Again, it was a true pleasure working with the Trash Academy on that project. I had a good time. So let's jump into the Q&A. I'm really excited for everyone here today to listen to the creators, the storytellers who put together all of the films that you all saw today. First, I'd like to, so folks, turn on your cameras. I want to see your beautiful faces. And we're going to first start. I want to talk to the Kern County crew who produced How Green Is My Valley. Could you all just introduce yourselves? Tell me a little bit about your personal journey, what brought you to this work, and also what your biggest takeaway you'd like the audience to know regarding your community and what it's going for.
Hi, I'm Rosana Esparza. I'm a Latina, Chicana, Mexicana in a town called Napomo, which is Chumash land. I am a brown woman, short hair, canas or canitas, the rayitos of living a life. Other people call them gray hairs, but they are what they are, and I embrace mine.
Love it.
It's important for us to really consider the fact that we're all uniquely different and all appreciative of the opportunities to talk about our communities and really express what we feel has not been said or tell the stories that haven't been told. I invited my colleague and friend Fabian Uresti, who is a filmmaker in his own right, a documentary filmmaker, and I've known him for many, many years, and he's blown me away with the things that he's done because he speaks from his heart. Our group is an environmental justice collaborative, and we have several organizations that have come together to work on this project. And I'll just say that when you work with a number of people who are all activists, life can get pretty exciting. And sometimes we're not able to all come together on consensus, but one thing we do all agree on is that we commit ourselves to the work of being in community, for community, and by our community. The opportunity to really put a statement together and looking at what are some of the aspects in our own backyard. What are the things that people who pass through on the major thoroughfares on Highway 101 and Highway 99 that they zip through? The 101 and the 5 are areas where people are going someplace else. Nobody ever stops. It's a place, if you're going to get gas, you stop, but other than that, nobody's there. And we just wanted to really highlight the fact that we are providing so much of the nation's oil and gas supply. Everything that's produced isn't utilized in our own community. It's parceled out, yet we are the ones that suffer most from the impacts and the effects of living in community. My colleagues will tell you as well that most of us suffer from asthma, chronic lung conditions. Many of the women have some form of cancer. And this is what propels us to do the type of work that we do and why it's so important for us as people living in community that we make these statements. I want to share the time with Fabian and get his take on why we're compelled to do this and why we wanted to participate in this program.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Excuse me. My name is Fabian Vasquez Oresti. I'm a Mexican-American, brown man, black hair. squarish glasses. Wearing a black and white top that says the historic Bakersfield Fox Theater. And there's a cartoon fox with, I guess, like an old timey film camera. Sitting on a brown couch in front of a white wall. In a sense, this piece is sort of a compendium to to a short that I made when I was finishing grad school, called "Everybody's Nuts," and for me, which touched on like personal family history and the environment, particularly, I guess, the oil industry. And for me, this piece, after Rosanna, he had asked if I could maybe help out with the project. I guess at one point I was kind of trying to think of how personal is the story to me. And so in doing a bit of research, I mean, I found out that my sister has asthma. My youngest nephew, who's like in 7th grade, is asthmatic as well. One of the I'm gonna blank on her name, unfortunately, but someone in the piece, talked about how it wasn't until she was about 18 that she just that she discovered that she had asthma, and largely as a result of living where she of growing up where she grew up. I was third, fourth year at Cal State Bakersfield when I found out that I had allergies, and it's like, oh, that's why your eyes are watering every every day, like at 9 in the morning in class. And so I don't know, I mean, I guess as someone who basically has lived in Bakersfield or Kern County my whole life, it's stories like these that affect me, affect everyone who lives in these communities, I guess, somewhat disproportionately, just depending on where you physically literally live.
Yeah.
But that said, I mean, it's something that still these are issues that again kind of affect me, affect Rosanna, affect all of us day to day. It's not something that you can necessarily just not think about or not encounter. And just it just depends on each of us and how we go about dealing with those issues. And so, but yeah, this project was like a really good way to kind of just think about what's going on currently, and try and think of what we can do in the future.
I love it. I love it.
I just wanted to make one more point, is that the work that we do is so invisible. It's invisible to those people who live in it, as Cynthia pointed out to us, that she had never even thought about it until she went to university. But yet we are stuck in a community that is loaded with individuals and groups of people who don't consider pollution, environmental pollution, toxicity, and killing people to be of any serious consequence, even though they are living here too. The fact that we have a board of supervisors who is willing to continually allow the oil and gas industry to write their own check for how they want to be regulated and who can regulate them is also something that is part of our environmental justice work. That they have recently approved a new and environmental impact report that, on top of the 140,000 drills that are there now, that we're going to have another additional 70,000 wells pretty soon. And this is all in a time where we are in California and the mandate is, well, we're going to pull back on this and we're going to backpedal. When? Where? How? When we have people that have been elected to represent us aren't, when we have local government who is obsessed with how much more they can earn and how much more they can make off of the backs of individuals living in their communities, when their campaigns are based on the pennies that people are providing to these elected officials, it's disgraceful that in this time, in this country, in this particular state that calls itself an environmental supporter, is not. And I
Yeah.
think some of the visions and images that we try to show, who in their right mind has a sign that says hazardous waste here?
Right.
And that
Well, look,
it's, yeah.
Rosanna, I want to say, like, you know, the issue may be invisible, but your mini documentary reminded me that what comes from the heart enters the heart. And the more specific you are as a storyteller, the more universal you tend to be. So I just want to thank you all so much. And we actually want to move on to the Austin, Texas crew to talk about the master plan. Austin, Texas, stand up. Let me see you. And we want to know, you know, tell us about your personal journey to bring you to this work, and what you would like the audience to take away.
Thank you, Chad. Really super excited to be here. I'm going to talk briefly, and then I'm going to let a few members of our crew and our team kind of shed some light on our project. I'm raised in McIntosh. I am a African American female. My friend Kim calls me penny colored. I have a cowboy hat on, golden locks, and a light green button up. And I have a bookcase in the back of me. So a little bit about oh, and I'm from Texas. Did I say that? I don't remember if I said that or not. But I wanted to talk just briefly about the whole purpose of this film project, and understanding where we kind of came from in terms of the master plan and what that is about. So we originally reached out, and what I mean by we, the Austin cohort of the ATX Mosaic, Austin Creative Alliance, East Austin Environmental Initiative, Raising in the Sun. We reached out to get help with understanding how to better bring our community together, help in a time of environmental racial injustices that was happening on the east side of Austin, Texas. And so Mural Arts hooked up with us, and we began to kind of tell them the story of how Black and brown people were concentrated on one side of the city and how that all happened. And so that reverts back to the master plan, which happened in 1928. The city of Austin government there literally forced all the Black and brown people from the west side of Austin to the east, forced them by cutting off power, water, and pushed them to one side of the city, and then concentrated the airport, the factories, trash compounds, poor infrastructure, like you name it, was concentrated where the Black and brown people were. And so to try to understand in 2021 where we go from here and what the situations were, we decided to kind of talk a little bit about the 1928 plan from the perspective of a artist or poet that was born and raised in Austin, and really lived through it and saw the changes from since he was born. And so we just took it to him and said, hey, we got your back. We'll try to come with as much B-roll as possible, but this is your stage. We trust you to talk a little bit about, through poetic verbiage, kind of walk us through 1928 up until now. And I think he did an amazing job.
He did his thing.
It's just amazing, and trying to take us through a little bit of how we're experiencing these environmental challenges because of the colors of our skin. And it just, I got chills, and we were able to bring on Daniel Yanez and Regina Thomas to kind of also give us a couple more perspectives from the artist standpoint, as well as a civic standpoint of a community person that's in there in these civic meetings talking about zoning and different things that as a community we struggling with right now. And
the challenges are still happening right now.
It's still happening, and it stems back. So I don't want to keep talking about it. I would like to hear from Kim, which is our art director. Chris Sand fortunately wasn't able to make it. She was in tears, wanted to make it, but had a really great team. Alexander Anderson, Dashe, we really came together. And Chad, you know how we had the vision at first. What could we do? How can we kind of present this story in the time frame that we had? And I think it went well. So yeah, I'm gonna turn it over to either Kim or Dashe to kind of add in. We don't want to take too much time.
Well, Dashe, I would love to ask you specifically what your creative process was, because it was very compelling, very impactful.
Okay, let me see if I can do this right. My name is Jeffrey Dashe Johnson. I'm a black man with brown eyes. I have a cap on that says Street Forge Armory. I'm in a maker space, and I'm surrounded by weapons.
Okay.
The Raisin in the Sun team provided pretty much all of the ammunition I needed to like really get past my anger about how consistent this city has, even like in my dad's era and his grandfather's era, is like continued to like kick and poke and prod and push black and brown people out to the margins, you know. And
yeah, my dad always says you don't know where you're going till you know where you've been.
Exactly. And you know, when you get down and dirty with the history of like Austin and like where like everybody's moving here now. You know what I'm saying? You got celebrities, you got tech companies, everybody's moving here. And the places that they love to frequent are places that black people created. You know, we owned 6th Street. That's the place that everybody comes. It's like U Street for DC. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
You know, you just walk. It's like Bourbon Street for New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? You walk and you just see it. It's just entertainment district. We own that. We had businesses there. 11th Street, we had businesses there, and they pushed us. And it wasn't one of those things where you can say, oh, well, you know, people that aren't from here is like, oh, well, y'all allowed yourselves to be pushed. And they're like, no, everything Reason said, it was like warfare. Like they had more money. They were able to do it. And I haven't been able to really like effectively talk about it. I'm getting angry just thinking about it and trying to explain it to you. So they provided the source material I needed to just like get to the point. And then I pulled from older pieces. Like these are like pieces, that middle piece and that last piece are part of bigger pieces that were written in like the early 90s.
Wow.
So
I also loved how you used time and you took your time and you paused and you let moments sit with the audience. That was amazing.
Thank you. And that comes from the filmmaker background and theater. But 13, aka Kim, brought me in, and I'd like to pass the baton on to her.
Okay.
Well, first of all, good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Taylor. I am wearing a dashiki and I have a white background behind me. I have black matte glasses on and dark dreadlocks and black dreadlocks. And first of all, thank you very much for allowing us to be here. And the work that we saw today was tremendous and a wealth of knowledge. As far as the Raisin in the Sun project, Raisin in all her glory and brilliance came to me and trusted me to assist. And after we decided the direction that we wanted to go into, we chose Dashe. And then we just took the scooters in the city and just had a history lesson as we went across the city. Alexandria provided a very good source and wealth of information for us. And we took the master plan, we took some existing areas in the city that were freedmen towns or freedmen colonies within the city. And we traveled in those areas from the west side of I-35 to the east side of I-35. And in that, we had a great opportunity to meet with two brown people, lovely people who are still holding on to their property in the Rainey district, which is very difficult because they too are being pushed out due to the entertainment industry. And also, as you happen to see, Mr. Henry's house, behind him is a multi-million-dollar development that is going up. And this is a man who has air conditionings that you put inside of window units. In 2021, someone has window units in a very wealthy area of the city. Another thing that you weren't able to see is that there is a Mexican American Cultural Center that is right there in the corner at the dead end of that area. As far as the African American community, we're continuing being pushed. One of the things that I like to say is that people call it gentrification here, but it's not gentrification, it's displacement. We are interested, we are committed in our communities and our areas. However, the city of Austin and the history has not allowed economic or generational wealth for us to sustain ourselves and to remain in the communities that we created and that we continue to thrive despite and in spite of what they've thrown at us. As far as the master plan, as Dashae as well as Raisin hit on, we are still experiencing it. Oracle has just come in, Tesla has just come in. We have some freedmen areas in towns that are still trying to hold on, but as Dashae pointed out, they are continuing to come. And when you have someone like Elon Musk that gets on the Twitter platform and states, build more places for my people to live, that is just a battle cry for the brown and Black people here in the city to be first pushed further east within the city. And when, you know, we're being pushed to food deserts, we're being pushed to areas that are not the most economically sound for us. The infrastructure here as far as public transportation is almost obsolete. There are very few private, well, not private, but public health centers for us. One of the issues that we currently have, you saw there that Breckenridge, one of the oldest hospitals in the city, has just recently been torn down to make place for, or make space for what? A high-rise apartment building again. So that's just the city and that's just what's happening in Austin. But I'm gonna let Raisin wrap it up because I kind of got going. I apologize for that.
No, we're not going to take any more time. I appreciate Kim and Dashae. And again, Chris couldn't be here. Alexandra is listening with the attendees. We really love everybody's film. I was super moved by these films and super inspired. So thank you guys again for having us. And hey, we look forward to connecting later on.
And thank you so much for sharing the master plan. I appreciate it. All right, to the Santa Fe, New Mexico crew, Interwoven. First of all, I love that title. And so talk to us about your personal journey to this work and what you would like the biggest takeaway to be for the audience.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Just to start off, I am a brown woman with short Black hair wearing a yellow floral blouse with a general white bedroom background. She Autumn Rose Billy and she kiss ani nishli bit atni bashishin. My name is Autumn Rose Billy. I'm one of the co-founders of Three Sisters Collective and also a newly graduated film student from Arizona State University.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. It's been a very intense year and just wanted to share that I hope that you are all healthy and that your families and your homes are doing well and healthy and, you know, taking strides and just being well after experiencing what we did for this entire past year. Just talking about COVID-19, I think collectively, like my mom said, it was a worldwide traumatic experience and how we build upon that and seek new hope and just new plans and action to move forward and how to take care of our well-beings in our communities. That's basically what I saw in my community. I introduced myself in my Navajo language, but on my mother's side, I was very much raised in Pueblo communities here in northern New Mexico. It was a very small glimpse of what is just kind of the tip of the iceberg of all of the intersectional issues that we face here in the state of New Mexico. And I think that's been something that I've been sharing constantly going through Mural Arts Collective. It's not just about this small town, but it's also like I see the rural communities and the border towns that intersect with the reservation borders. I see Navajo Nation and it being like one of the primary places where a lot of extractive and oil and gas wells are located. I can't help but think about this entire area of the Southwest when I think about extractive industries because it's everywhere, right? And inherently as Indigenous people, we don't necessarily coincide with the Western concept of the borders, right? Even understanding our struggles of, you know, in Mexico and understanding like the ecological and social issues that are placed on those lands, right? Because before that, we can honestly say all of this was Indigenous lands and we have culture and stories that can pretty much share and show that understanding and that portrayal. And I really tried to do that in 5 minutes. It was
yeah,
very
that's
hard.
a lot, right? Yeah, that's a lot.
And
what does interwoven mean to you and what do you want audiences to think about that?
I want them to think about how much strength there is in unison and in shared collaborations of what community is. Indigenous Pueblo people, like we lived and we thrived off interdependence and community. We had old housing structures that looked like apartments that were 4 or 5 stories high, made out of adobe, and we thrived on having very close home units. And I think that's what filmmaking is for me. I thrive in it because I'm really good at collaborating. I really like and enjoying working with other people and trying to have that shared communication of like, where is this story going? And documentary storytelling is really like that. I started off with Israel and talking to him and repeatedly watching his interview and trying to figure out where can I have the building blocks to build off of what he was sharing. And that statement that you shared about being shortchanged and being forced to think small, that really hit alignment with a lot of what people were saying, reiterating the history. We have a very intimate and very intense relationship with our history here. And that was proven to me when Three Sisters Collective addressed the removal of an obelisk in downtown Santa Fe, and a lot of more conservative and a lot of more Hispano families who have lived here for generations were very upset about that. And I don't think they necessarily knew what the history of the obelisk was or what it stands for, but it was also a cry out for help, for understanding that we need land back and we need our Indigenous communities to be seen as humans and to be treated with respect and not to be erased or commodified. A lot of our culture, a lot of our aesthetics and jewelry, paintings, things like that, right? And I think that reiterates to what a lot of activists were sharing earlier about art. Like, it's harmful because it can be commodified and it can be exploited, right? But what lies in the power is also the person who creates those stories or those items, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's something also important to point out, is that collaborating with people who have that mutual respect and consent and understanding of like what you want to bring forth and present is important, and how it's done, right? That's the whole point of public art. It's for everybody.
Yeah. Well, look, it is very difficult and takes much skill to be impactful in a short amount of time, and you absolutely pulled it off. So thank you so much. Interwoven was amazing.
Thank you.
I want to talk to the crew from Akron, Ohio, Arts in the Park. Let's talk to you all about your journey to this work and what you would like the audience to take away.
Well, I think I need permission to share my video.
What's permission? I'm sorry, what was that? Okay, I think you're not muted. Okay, muted, yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Mullen. I serve as Executive Director of Arts Now, and you are catching me on a day when I'm afflicted with a cough. And so right as soon, Chad, as you said my name, there was a large coughing fit. So I
know how that goes.
Being a little thrown off. It's so wonderful to be here today, and I really appreciate the talent of this group to be able to tell stories in such a short period of time. I think is an enormous undertaking. And it's been wonderful to watch our own filmmakers go through that process, as well as all of you. I think in an effort so that you do not have to hear my voice and you can hear from others, I'll just share briefly. The Cuyahoga Valley National Park is situated in between 2 urban cores, the Cleveland and the city of Akron. And there's been a lot of work to figure out how to connect those, but also what it means to connect and who is connected. The Conservancy for the National Park, who is our partner in this effort, has done a lot of work in this space and continues to be advocates and leaders in that space. So I'm going to allow my colleague and friend Debbie Andala, who's the president and CEO, continue, and apologize that but I'm not quite at my best for today. So.
Thanks, Nicole. I'm very happy to jump in. I am blondish with a blue top and a gray background. The Conservancy is the Friends Group for Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and in this role, we really represent the community and bring community voices to the National Park, a federal agency, and also help support the park in a variety of ways, education, fundraising, arts in a variety of ways. For this film, which we were so pleased to be a part of, we really wanted to emphasize the importance of access to green spaces. And in Northeast Ohio is an urbanized area, thanks to redlining, suburbanization, issues such as that. Many communities of color have been cut off from the greatest green spaces and resources of the region. And so, we've been asking ourselves the question in the park, what can we do to help park as a public land be a place where people feel safe, where they feel welcome, where they see themselves, where they feel it's their national park. And that's the story that we've been trying to tell and work on through community voices by bringing people to advise us and work with us and be part of us as an organization to really tell this story. And I think this film did a wonderful job of showing how the arts are one of the key avenues, the key ways we can say to the entire community, this is your park, you have a place. And I especially think this is true in a region like Northeast Ohio, and I'll say Cleveland in particular, where parks are not always places where people, and especially children, have felt safe and welcome. So trying to change not just the narrative, but the action to help people feel that they can have places in parks through the arts for healing and solace and peace and celebration. And I'll turn it over to the filmmakers.
Deb, I just want to say I love that, because here at Mirror Arts Philadelphia, we always say that art ignites change. And it really is not just about the narratives, but it is also about the action and what results from that narrative.
Yeah,
so that's
thank
great.
you so much.
Yeah, I would love to hear from filmmakers.
Sure. Hi, I'm Megan. I am a Caucasian female with medium length blonde hair and brown glasses. And I'm in a navy t-shirt with a white tree on it. And I'm surrounded by windows with the beautiful green trees behind me today. We absolutely loved partnering with Nicole at Arts Now and Deb at the Conservancy. I grew up in Akron and honestly kind of took the parks for granted and didn't know a whole lot about the history of them and how they came to be and really the importance of them and all the work that they were doing for the community. So this was really an eye-opening experience for me in the making of this film. There was so much information to share. And the hardest part, as Autumn was saying, is getting all this wonderful information into 4 minutes. The Conservancy is doing so much to help the community and to bring arts to the people. And so we were just able to touch on just a few of the projects that they're doing. And I know they have a lot of exciting things coming up in the next year or so, and we're hoping we can follow those journeys as well and really find out and explore how they're impacting the community around us.
That's great. I love the short film format, because even though it's hard to put in all that information in a short amount of time, the fact that we were able to get all these films in, to be able to look at all these films across the country is amazing, and that's really the great thing about the short film format and I go to film festivals all across the country, or used to back in the day before the pandemic hit. And that was what I really loved, is that in like an hour, you can have all these conversations that are big, even though the films were small. And it takes a lot of work to make a project like that, so thank you so much. Let's go to the Motor City, Detroit, Michigan. Desmond Love, let's talk about Paradise Foods. Hey, Desmond.
Hey, what's up? I thought my partner was gonna go first. She was supposed to break. Well, I guess I'll go first, I guess. Hey, Desmond. Plastic black frames. I'm in a reddish, what's this? Like a orange room. I have on a blue shirt. Feels like denim a little bit. black man, black hair. Yeah. So this film was basically about food in the area I'm from, which is Detroit, and how we don't really have that many options when it comes to healthy food to eat because of like the quality of our grocery stores or just how far the grocery store might be. A good grocery store could be like a good, you know, 5 to 7 miles away from where you live. And for people that don't have cars or need to take an Uber, that adds up. And it's like you'll see people walking down the street with heavy truck, grocery bags all the way to their house. That's just time consuming and just like you don't want to do that. But very hard for people just to just eat here, healthy food. So when we connected with Mama Neza, we knew she was somebody who was trying to change that for the residents here in Detroit. And one of the things she does by that is she cooks and actually serves the food that she cooks in different areas within Detroit. So people don't have to go out far to receive nourishing food. It's not something that she can constantly do every day because people need to, eat every day. But
Right.
she does it enough for us to be exposed to this healthy food, so we know what healthy food is. Some people who can't, get that on a daily basis.
I love you said so people know what healthy food is because it's really also knowing that it exists. And a lot of times these stores that exist are called convenience stores, but because they're convenient, but then they lack what people need, and then therefore they don't know what they need. So that's a really good point.
We can eat hot Cheetos every day, burn a hole in our stomach,
Right.
but it's good, but they ain't good for us.
And what do you want audiences to really take away from this film?
So I partner with Live Six, and Live Six is an organization that really tries to get the whole area to like be engaged with each other and like uplift each other in community. And that's one of the things I want people to like take from this is to help each other to like find these healthy food sources and like educate each other on like what's good, what you should be eating, the health, and what we can do in our own backyards to grow our own food and just stay healthy out here.
Great. Is there anyone else from your team present?
Yeah. See, unless they left.
Okay, they might have. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Desmond. Really enjoyed your film. Now we're going to move to the Memphis team, Toxic Behavior. Toxic Behavior, that was a great film. Folks, please tell us your name, describe yourself, and also tell us about your personal journey to get to this work and what you want the audience to take away.
Sure. Well, I'll set up Asia because it's really her project. But real quick, my name's Brett Hanover. I'm a project manager at the Urban Art Commission, also a filmmaker myself. I'm a white guy with long hair and overalls, and I'm sitting in a cluttered office with some art behind me. But we, right after the pandemic started, we were doing a series of kind of micro grants, COVID relief funding small projects, and we're able to fund Asia to do this really great short film. And then when this opportunity came up, we were doing another kind of our own local environmental justice symposium in the fall, bringing together activists and artists just locally. And this film opportunity came out, and we reached out to Asia, and she proposed this great idea, which was to cover the Byhalia pipeline protest, which is an issue here that maybe a year or so ago, a lot of people hadn't heard of or hadn't been paying attention to. And then over this year, the momentum has just grown and grown. And we're at a place where it seems like, hopefully there could be some successes coming up. But yeah, really glad we were able to work with Asia a couple times this year. So, but it's but it's her project, so I'll turn over to her.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you. My name is Aisha Rezan, African-American woman with dark brown, blonde, black locks. And I am overlooking the city of Memphis with my garden outshining all of it. One of the reasons why I became so interested in this project is because the area of which they're talking about, Boxtown, most of South Memphis, is where my ex-husband's family's from. In the past couple of years, he's been fighting off a lot of sickness, some of it done by himself, but some has been well assisted with some of the waterways in that area. I became interested in that as well as watching some of the areas and knowing some of the history behind Boxtown. And one of the things I noticed around Valentine's Day was the Valero plant, which is not too far from my home. I live near downtown, but closer to South Memphis. And when the fire went up, I saw it. And we're talking about miles away from me. So I became curious and I wanted to know what was going on. My mother, who loves watching the news and loves watching everything, had me to reach out to a young man named Justin, who's part of the Memphis community against the pipeline. He, along with Kizzy Jones and many others, have been working against stopping Plains All American and other companies of coming in and basically building this pipeline between Byhalia, Mississippi and Memphis, but it's going through South Memphis. Let me get it right. The 38106 is perhaps one of the hardest hit when it comes to the Byhalia pipeline. We've already had problems with the water as is, especially when we're talking about going through that area. But we're talking about taking away people's home, eminent domain and such. So one of the things that affected me most, as you can see in the film, are the families that they have tried to fight just to keep their land. You know, these are people who've been there from the construction of Boxtown, from the construction of South Memphis and many other areas within that waterway. Not just there, but we're talking about throughout. I am not from Memphis. I live here now for the last 15 years, but I'm from an area in Ripley, Tennessee, and my family lives along that waterway, and we're living out there since 1857 when my great grandmother escaped from slavery. So there's a lot, it's personal, especially when you're talking about eminent domain, especially when you're talking about violence when it comes to our waterways, not being able to be healthy, not being able to take care of your families in the best way possible, not having these toxins coming within your communities and your bodies. So there's a lot of fight that's going with that. As the present moment, they're starting to back up a lot. The city commission, they're getting a lot of letters throughout the city of Memphis. We've had a lot of support outside of it from people such as former Vice President Al Gore, people that are coming from North Carolina, South Carolina, Justin Timberlake, not just celebrities, but a lot of people who are activists who are helping in order to make sure that our waterways and our communities are safe. I'm hoping and praying that my little small drop is just one of many that will not only help stop this, but also to give the realization that when it comes to our communities, we need this. We need to go out, we need to fight, we need to go and make sure that we're not affected by having our land taken, we're not affected by having our clean water taken. So it's about protecting the soil, protecting the land, protecting the babies in the process.
Wow. Yeah, you know, that small drop is actually really big. You know, it's like the butterfly effect. People always say, Chad, how you doing? And I say, I'm keeping my head above water and making a wave when I can. So I think you're making big waves, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So now we're going to move to Philadelphia, where we are now, here in Mirror Arts, Philadelphia. And we're going to talk to Bilal of for his film, A Green Future for Gray's Ferry. What's up, Bilal?
Hey, Chad. How you doing? Hi, everybody. Yes, my name is Bilal Motley. I'm a Black male with short hair. I have a jacket, I think is pretty much pink, and a white shirt. And I'm standing in an office in a building with the blinds down with the white walls behind me. So yes, this film is a follow-up to my original film from last year, Midnight Oil, about my experiences at the oil refinery. I worked there for nearly 15 years. So my last film was about me. It was a lot about me, which is really uncomfortable, putting myself out there, speaking up against a place where I worked at, against the environmental issues that it presented. And so this one, you don't see me in this one, obviously. It's about the community. And Rodney Ray is in the chat. He's in the call right now. He's from the community and he's a part of this film. He spoke in the middle section. And basically I wanted to see, like, after the refinery closed, like what happens next? Like the real work happens. How do you build relationships with the new company, Hilco? And, I'm on a jobs committee with Rodney Ray. We're trying to get people jobs that for years, like, could not get into that refinery from the South Philly neighbor and fence line community. And I was one of the lucky ones. It's not many people of color in there. And like, how do you get more people in there? Like, how do you make sure that they're green jobs? How do you make sure that the remediation that's happening now, how do you make sure that's environmentally friendly? And how do you have accountability from the community? So that's the questions that we're trying to get answered now with several communities with the Philly Thrive organization. And I don't know if Rodney Ray, he can speak more on that. I don't know if he's still with us.
Rodney, we'd love to hear from you.
Hey, how you doing, Chad?
Good. How about yourself?
All right. Well, I lived around the refinery all my life. My dad worked for the refinery. My grandpa, they both died from lung cancer. And it was just hard for me. I had to speak against all of the union workers. I was retired then, and I, spoke about different health problems that people have in our community, dying from lung cancer. I'm just watching people in our community just die from lung cancer. So now that it's Hilco has it, we start an apprenticeship program for the young people to go to school to 6 to 8 weeks. And, they get a stipend. And if they don't have a diploma, they can get that. And then when they finish the program, they can be able to get into the union and not only work at the refinery, they can work, with the union book. Like I was doing, I did trade shows. That was my main job. Flower show, car shows, set up exhibits, conventions, so in Philadelphia today is a big problem with gun violence. When, Philly Thrive, we fighting the gun violence in the city. We may get 6 or 7 or 9.
So we lost.
I'm so thankful that you.
Looks like we have a little technical difficulties.
Yeah. Can you hear?
Yeah, we hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm so glad, Chad, you brought this, so we can hear our voices can be heard,
Yes.
But Philly Thrive has been fighting for a right to breathe, and that's how we shut down that refinery. We made the New York Times, we went to New York and protested while they were upstairs bidding on the land. We didn't want nobody to get the land that was going to make it a refinery again. And that's what happened. So we feel though, Hilco is helping us with different programs in our community, which we need, because, around here, all we see is no programs, no community center, so the young guys, all they do is stand on the corner and get into all kinds of trouble, shootings and murders, and, so with me joining Philly Thrive and talking against the unions on making it a healthy workplace today. The unions didn't like it. They was fighting over 1,000 jobs. But now since Hilco took over the land, we're talking about 30,000 jobs. building on the cleanup and things. And we're going to make sure that them jobs come to our community, because we're the ones who suffered the most and we're the closest to the refinery.
That's amazing work.
Yeah, so I just want to thank you for that, Chad. And thank you for Bilal. Thank you, Bilal.
Thank you. And Chad, I'm from Chester. So your film, I know we go to that one soon. So I'm from Chester. I appreciate your piece on that too. So from Chester, so I'm well aware of that issue. So thanks.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah. No, this is amazing work. And yeah, we need to have access to jobs, because that also fights against recidivism. And that's something that our Restorative Justice Department at Mural Arts Philadelphia focuses on through our Guild Apprenticeship Program. So I look forward to meeting you, Rodney, in person, and you, Bilal, as well. Everybody, frankly. But I guess it'd be easier with the folks in Philly. And I would like to talk to the Trash Academy folks. Ron, who is present here, to talk about our process. We work together closely on this. Yeah, take it away, Ron.
Hey, what's up, Chad? Good to see you again, virtually. I'm a Black guy wearing a black shirt, white room with a ceiling fan, like roundish shaped glasses. So yeah, I think this project grew out of our plastic bag campaign. Trash Academy started in 2016 as a way of community members trying to tackle this really thorny issue of trash here in Philadelphia. And the way that we approach this is that it's not like a personal responsibility issue, even though people shouldn't litter and things like that. We try to complicate the issue of trash and get people to understand that it's really a huge systemic issue. And for example, fracking is one of the major forces behind all the different plastic products you see in the grocery store. So you notice how everything is wrapped in plastic. That's because they're fracking for natural gas and turning that natural gas into plastic, and they're flooding the marketplace with cheap plastic goods. And so it's hard to escape. It's hard to get away from. But what we did with our plastic bag campaign was give people an alternative, saying that, we can change directions. We can use maybe just a reusable bag instead of a plastic bag. And we wanted to, since we work in collaboration with people, with community members, with youth, we wanted to make this video representative of the different perspectives within Trash Academy. So you saw a young woman who's passionate about animals and nature. That was her particular perspective. She basically wrote the script on that part. Then you had Aminata, who I wish she could be here. I think she had to work or something. She, is a really well-known advocate in the Parkside area. She works for the Parkside CDC, just trying to clean up that neighborhood and get rid of all the illegal dumping, all the other stuff that's going on. And my own perspective on this is, I've been working on grassroots environmental stuff for about 10 years. And I've really just come to understand that we are only going to win and only change things if we present the information to people in a way that gives the real information, like the real scope of the problem, but also solutions, like also not dragging people down, making them feel like, oh, well, everything is lost. We can't solve climate change. We can't solve the environmental crisis because it's too big. That's not going to work. We have to give people options. We have to let people know that there is a way forward. We have to organize. We have to link up together. So that's why it was also so inspiring to see all these other videos and see how people are organizing all over the country. So yeah, that's just a little bit about our process. And of course, you were really instrumental in that, being our videographer. So it was really good working with you as well.
Thank you. I had a great time. It was a very diligent process. So, and it was, I learned a lot. And I remember showing it to my dad and my mom. So, they're like my closest advisors. My dad was like, I guess I won't be buying plastic bags anymore. So
yeah,
that was good. I'm glad it was impactful. Well, I'm glad that we got to chat with everyone, and we still have some time. So now I want to kind of open it up and we can talk kind of freely. One of the questions that I've been really dying to ask you all is, how has COVID-19 impacted and compounded the issues that you all talk about in your films? And how did it challenge you all as filmmakers? And anyone can talk at any time. We can make this a conversation. Fabian, I see you moving in your seat. You got an answer for it?
Yeah. I suppose I do. Initially, I wanted to so what ended up being a lot of the interview footage, or basically all of the interview footage, was I basically did a screen recording of these Zoom interviews. I mean, initially I was wanting to go out on location and shoot the interviews, some of them maybe being about 2 hours north of here of Bakersfield. And so just through, I guess, consensus, it was decided that maybe it was best, because of COVID, to and also as a way to document, that we were in this, year of a pandemic. And so for a few reasons, it was decided that maybe it was best to just let's go ahead and conduct these interviews over Zoom, and then however we can capture that footage. And so that's what I ended up doing. And there was just very little, maybe what ended up being 20 seconds, if that, of landscape footage from Northeast Bakersfield, this area called the Panorama Bluffs that overlooks this Chevron oil fields. And so yeah, that was like the only footage that I was able to capture for the project. And so yeah, it was so yeah, that was definitely something that helped shape what the end result was. Not being able to go out and shoot with with live subjects.
And that's one of the other things I love about these films, is that it really does also act as a time capsule in more ways than one. And the method that was used to be able to create this under really difficult circumstances ends up, in a way, encapsulating the zeitgeist of now. So great work. And I love your black and white look and the way you have your microphone set up. Really cool. Really hit.
Thank you.
Who else wants to chime in about just how COVID-19 has impacted? How about Bilal and then Asia?
Yes. Yeah, it was interesting. Like I only interviewed from the community Rodney Ray because I know I've had different experiences with family and friends. Different people react differently to the pandemic. Like, for instance, I've pictured people being like my dad. I'm like, Dad, before I go in his house, Dad, put my mask on. He's like, well, you better get in this house. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I try to be very careful because I know my people. You know what I'm saying? I know how to get some of them.
That's just germs.
So I try to be really careful. I was like, let me use a lot of drone footage. I'm going to be really careful.
Yeah,
that's it. That's it. Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Awesome. How about you, Asia?
Okay, he said the same thing I would have said because I could hear my mama's voice. You better not go outside without a mask. I mean, I'm 49, so you know, we didn't have 800 numbers yet before we could tell somebody not to whip us. But anyway, but no, I think, one thing that you said is correct. A time capsule, indeed, because you see the masks, you see, the social distancing, you see a lot of that. And one of the things that I experienced, because for a lot of this film, it took me back to my journalism days. I worked in audio, and then later I started doing video when we were doing so many protests and such here. So I wanted to give it that look, whereas you're giving it like a news report, without being the news reporter in front of the camera. But for a lot of it, I think the most nerve-wracking moment was Reverend Regina, because when she spoke to me, she kept her mask on. And I kept wondering, I think I went through that footage maybe 4 or 5 times. Can they hear her? Can they understand her? Do I need to go in? And I was waiting on Brett to tell me, and I can tell you this now because it's over and I can breathe. I was waiting on you to tell me. I'm going to need you to write all that down. No one can understand a word that she said. You're shaking your head no, but I heard a yes. Don't do that. But that was like my biggest worry, that, some of it wouldn't be understood as well. And then I was working with a new camera too, so I'm far distant. I can't get up close. So they had a far out, but fortunately enough, I did have a great mic. We had some days whereas the weather was weird. One week it was perfect and I was able to get as much. Another day, overcast, clouds pop up. and then the sun pops up, and then and all I could do is just look up at the sky and be like, ooh.
Yeah.
But a lot of it, like you said, it is a time capsule. It is that moment that we're capturing people who are about activism. Yeah, at the same time, we have to be socially distant. We have to make sure that everyone is fine. We have to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do in order to keep us safe. So that's a big deal overall.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot to juggle. Ron?
Yeah, so, in addition to the disruption, because we couldn't meet in person, that was really hard because we were just used to having like in-person meetings and like breaking bread together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There were two major things that really came up for us because, we're Trash Academy, we're talking about trash all the time. And there was this really amazing statistic that came out saying, this is from the Journal of Environmental Science and Technology, 129 billion face masks and 65 billion gloves have been used around the world every month during the pandemic. And this is like unbelievable. I mean, we already have a trash crisis before the pandemic. Now it's taken it to like level 11, from 1 to 10, now it's at level 20 almost. The other issue that came up for us was, we deal with issues of disposability and what's disposable, what's not. And the pandemic really showed us that in our society, we have this problem of disposability with people, like, essential workers were basically thrown to the wolves. I mean, people were being forced to work in situations where people didn't have to wear a mask. They're saying now all these people, they can't find workers to be line cooks and stuff. Well, yeah, most of them died. A lot of them died because they were just basically not given any protection. So we have seen COVID really revealed that this idea of things being disposable extends to people as well. You're just used and discarded, for the moment. And that's really something that we have been trying to bring out in other projects in our work as well.
Okay. Autumn or Megan, Raisin, Desmond, anyone else want to chime in just about how maybe COVID impacts the work that you all are doing, but also the filmmaking process itself? How about Autumn and Megan?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Israel for, just being there to push me and to keep going, dealing with finals and also just being at home and also trying to make sure that this was a good video project for us to work on. There was a point in the filming process where I didn't even meet the people that I was working with, very much like how I got a short film done in school. I did not meet the people face to face. And Israel linked up with somebody, I forgot the name, but Israel, if you want to talk about like how we got our drone footage of the farm that we're working on, that was a huge part of it that I needed and it was very hard to access. And the other piece of it was that I was really trying to get someone else other than myself who is Indigenous and doing a lot of more primary work as either organizing or doing policy work for environmental justice. And there was one individual that I wanted to link up with, but because of being mindful of COVID, I couldn't enter the reservation she resides in, and I couldn't enter a lot of tribal communities. There's checkpoints along our communities with our own tribal security and police, and they identify folks, whoever lives in and resides in the village or communities can go in. Everybody else is not allowed. Tourists aren't allowed. Even just the whole piece of it of being like, we don't want you here, like in our vicinity or in our natural areas where other Indigenous folks are living, because they were very vulnerable and susceptible and most vulnerable during this pandemic of getting sick and everything. So that was something I had to be mindful of. And I honestly respect that. I honestly respect when my tribes, exercise their sovereignty and say no to just the general public and the United States in general. I'm a fan of that, and so I was like, okay, fine. It could have been handled with a Zoom interview, but I just kind of had to get more creative about the folks that I was going to talk to and make sure that they were sharing those messages that really align with what was being shared based on Israel's interview too.
Megan?
Similar to what other people have shared, really the biggest challenge was just interviewing people in a safe place. We had the benefit of having the national park as a wonderful place to interview people, which is obviously outside, which is safer, but it was the end of March in Ohio. So it was kind of touch and go in terms of the weather and coordinating and scheduling with people. But, we had a great crew and people working with, and Deb's office was wonderful in terms of coordinating where and how to make it all happen. But that was probably the biggest complication for us with COVID, was just being able to interview people without masks on in a space that everybody felt comfortable and safe.
Great. Raisin, did you want to talk about this as well?
So I find myself a lot of times after, it's at the end that you ask the question, everybody pretty much covers it.
Yeah,
right?
I understand.
Start
Yeah.
off with saying, I agree with what everybody was saying. I think the pandemic has been a worldwide thing, right? So it's kind of really hard to kind of ignore it. So always keeping it right there and understanding that flexibility is key, right? And understanding how we have to, if we're going in, bringing in folks from the community to talk, we got to be flexible,
Yeah.
Somebody might want to talk with their mask. I'm talking to Asia. Somebody might want to talk with their mask on. We
Right.
So we can't, we just got to say, what, the story has to be told. The story has to be told. So if you want to talk your mask on, that's fine. So I think at the end of the day, we had really good peeps from the community to come represent and said, hey, you know what? We got a story to tell. I'm gonna talk about it. I don't need a mask, and so we were able to kind of divide it up in that way, make everybody feel comfortable. So I think at the end of the day, the pandemic can't stop it. I think if anything, it gave a lot of people, slowed a lot of stuff down, and enabled a lot of people to kind of rise to the occasion, because we had that sense of calm and everybody's kind of staying still, staying put, and giving energy to those creative juices to kind of flow, and for people to kind of reminisce and think about what the real solution or problems and then possible solutions are.
Was there anyone else who wanted to? Oh, Desmond, did you want to comment on this as well? Anyone else? Oh, yeah, Israel. Let me have Israel and then Desmond, if you want to say anything. No pressure.
We both went at the same time.
Yeah.
One, I wanted to thank the Mural Arts for funding POC films being made. Bringing you on, Chad, and giving us as POC the opportunity to pay other POC.
Yes.
To make and tell our own stories.
Yes, absolutely.
That if anything, this COVID time has proven to us, we already knew, but that we're the ones, culture bearers, culture workers, the ones that have the stories to tell.
Yeah.
And they always get appropriated by white artists, white lens, and that we were given that opportunity to tell our stories and to remind everybody out there listening that we have to keep funding POC artists to tell our stories, that it's our neighborhoods. And yet now more than ever, COVID is showing, just like Amazon and Walmart are getting richer and all this, that some nonprofits are digitally exploiting us more than ever, because they can't come out to the streets, because they don't want to come out to the streets, because it's literally life or death.
Yeah.
And we're the ones out there. And so I want to, one, point to that those difficulties, but also our power in that, and to set your rates, folks, and to try to, for ourselves, what we're trying to do with the funding that we got, we were able to give it in-house to Autumn, but we want to leverage those funds to get her the real equipment, to get her the professional level as she's trying to graduate college, so she doesn't end up holding a boom mic out of college, but instead starting her own film company. So I'm throwing that shout out too, and to everybody else. So I'm hoping that everybody rewatches these films and really looks at who made these films and try to support those artists by either getting the equipment, getting the funds, or even resharing. That it's so important that we recognize that we are the storytellers, we are the culture bearers, and to not sell ourselves short. And we're really grateful that this forum is showing that with hearing everybody's inspirational story, and that we continue to do that for each other.
Desmond, did you want to say something? Oh yeah, you're muted. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much all the same everyone else was saying. I really had nothing to say. It was a struggle for sure. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to take this job because, like here in Detroit, cases here is going up crazy. Like I get on Facebook and like another person I know is dead, gone, like every other day. Like it's real here, like really real. Like I know, like because the demographic here, or like it's different. It's like 20 miles away, but here in the metro area of Detroit, people dropping every day. So I'm like, is this really worth it to go do this? But I ended up doing it, tried to stay safe as possible. But yeah, man, this COVID stuff.
But Desmond, I just want to say thank you so much for doing that. You know, I think that, I think this is a time where a lot of people are being really reflective about what they should and shouldn't do in this very, very just challenging time. And the fact that you did it, I think is just a testament to your resilience and to your own grit. We had a great conversation, you all, and I just want to, we just hit our time. I had a really good time listening to everyone tell your stories. I really enjoyed watching the films again. And I hope that everyone who here listening from all over the country enjoyed them as well. I do want to remind you all that the mini docs that you all watched today and the recording of this film festival will be available online on the Mirror Arts website within 24 hours. Also, I wanted to invite you all to attend the next event of the day, which is at 5:30 p.m. It's called Art of Activism, live from Austin. And tomorrow is going to be the closing keynote at 12:30, the story of our new economy. Sapade, did you want to say any last words?
Thank you all so much for presenting, making these films. I hope that people will continue to watch them for a long time. I know I've witnessed all of them several times and they've been impactful every time. So thank you for sharing your truth and your vision in that way. And the labor behind it during COVID is incredible. Chad, my friend, thank you. No, you introduced the next panels. We appreciate that. Art of Activism tonight with Raisin, Jay Muzaks and Carmen Rangel from ATX Mosaic Workshop. And tomorrow is our closing keynote. We're gonna have the executive director of the U.S. Federation of Workers Cooperatives, Esteban Kelly, in conversation with Laura Zabel, Executive Director of Springboard for the Arts. We are also featuring Dan Edelstein and Hillary Powell, who are filmmakers and artists behind a really incredible film called Bank Job, exploring debt abolition in really creative ways. That conversation is going to be moderated by Oscar Perry Abello, who is a senior economic correspondent from Next City, who is one of our incredible media sponsors for this symposium. And tomorrow after that, we're actually going to have an opportunity for all the panelists and participants and attendees of the symposium to gather collectively just for an informal social hour. So feel free to join us. We're so grateful. And thank you, Chad, for your great moderation, and Comms for your great facilitation.
Thank you for asking me to moderate, and thank you so much.
Right on.
Bye.